Good morning, quilt roadies. Well, how are you all doing? I am still on cloud nine about the sale, so I'm gonna hit the door running in this episode. But first, if this is your first time here, please take a moment and subscribe and hit the thumbs up button. I would appreciate it. It was so wonderful meeting all of the people that showed up for the sale at Pioneer Quilts in Portland, Oregon. It's a yearly yard sale, and you rent a space, a little 10 by 10 space, and you bring your own tables and umbrella or covering if you want, and then you set up whatever you're selling. And I would say a good portion of the people at that event were vendor types. That means that they had specific wares to sell. And oh man, the booth behind us was this beautiful kind of art clothing. It was just gorgeous. And it was everything I could do not to add to, the mantra of my kind of not totally downsizing the beehive, but I wanted to live in the moment of relishing what it felt like to not bring stuff back in, of which I know is going to happen because, so many things to love. And the gal that was dying that had a whole booth of hand-dyed wool. Oh, I am telling you, it was gorgeous. And it turned out to be a lovely day. So this yearly yard sale is an event that literally you will see in the slideshow at the end. Literally, people were lined up from the entrance to the road waiting for the 9 o'clock in the morning bell, and Leslie was running around like a feverish little mother, making sure everyone felt good, everyone was set up and doing well. And it's held in a historic farm site, so naturally there's a lot of uneven ground, old sidewalks, old paths. The building is gorgeous. The quilt shop is fabulous. So if you're ever in Portland, it is a bucket list shop to stop. And I am blessed because I go to Woolly. They have many classes, but I attend Woolly Wednesdays. That happens twice a month. I for sure make it at least once a month. And although it's called Woolly Wednesdays, and we make a small $5 donation for using the facility, people are cross-stitching, they're appliquing, they're sashacoing. It's just a place where we get to gather and be friends and encourage each other. So the whole environment is just a blessing for the quilting community. I will tell you more about the evolution of my brain and the beehive later in this video. But first, I wanted to tell you about the sale. So everything I was selling was being donated. The proceeds were being donated to Leach's Botanical Garden in Portland, Oregon, which is a fabulous public garden that has paths and bridges and wonderful places to walk through. And G takes pictures, photos there. He always brings his camera. We will take our grandchildren and walk through there. They have a gift shop, a little children's area of the garden that is sweet. It is just a lovely place, and I will put their link in the description box. So I knew that emotionally it was going to be hard to give up a lot of things. We do this struggle of maybe someday we'll make this, or oh, I could maybe use that little 3 by 3 piece of fabric in a hexie. I mean, all of those things were occurring for me. So to help my heart and my brain, I decided that everything that was sold that day was going to turn around and go to Leach's Botanical Garden. And it was like the floodgates opened. It allowed me to be free with letting go, which for people who hoard fabric, it's not a natural place to be, but it allowed me to do that. And we had signs up, and so some people, even though Sarah, who was my cohort, and I couldn't have done it without her, she was wheeling and dealing. You know, if people were buying groups of things, she'd give them a discount. And even though she might have said, oh, you can have this for $5 or something, people would say, oh, well, here's an additional $5 for the garden. I mean, I appreciated that so much. And on top of that, Leslie brought me an envelope. I won't show you the front because I wrote notes all over it, but gave me an envelope from someone from John Day who happened to be shopping at the shop like the week before, and her name is Anna too. I had it on here, yes, I'm pretty sure I said that right. But she left a sizable donation. She wasn't even coming to the sale, but she left a sizable donation to Leach's. There are good, generous people in the world. And, oh, there goes a little dog walker. I've not seen that dog before. It looks like an Eddie dog, you know, from that TV show with the psychiatrist. Yeah. Oh, okay. If this is your first time, know that I do get distracted by what's outside my window, because the beehive is sitting up on a hill and I look down on the road, and so it's very distracting and entertaining. So where was I? So this envelope was left with a sizable donation for the garden, and I want to thank you for that. This is a nonprofit garden, and last time I was there about 2 weeks ago with my youngest grandson, they had already plowed a new path through the garden. So we took the new path, and it's expanding. It's just absolutely a magical place. And so if you're ever in Portland, there are dozens of public gardens that are a place to go contemplate and be at peace. Okay, so the sale. There were so many. My well was filled that day. Let me just tell you, my well was filled. From the little girl who happened to be with her parents, she looked about 3, and she was just looking at stuff. And we were the very first booth, so it was, you knew that was going to be kind of a long shop. The kids, 3-year-old kids, they're not too much into shopping. And she's not a quilter yet, but she could be. Anyway, I had a bag, 2 containers of craft items. Several years ago, I thought I was going to be doing crafting, and so when they had a sale like at Michael's, I would just buy a box of little heart boxes, or a box of like several wooden boxes that I just thought I was going to turn them into something. And then as time progresses, your desires change, or you think, oh, your style of cross stitch or your style of quilting changes, and we've talked about this before. And so I had this whole containers of craft items that I knew I was not going to use in a timely fashion, I should say. And she was looking through the bag, and there were these cardboard formed heart boxes with lids. And so I asked her if she wanted one, and she shook her head, yeah. And then I looked at her parents and I said, is it okay if I fill it with popcorn? Because I had a big bag of popcorn. And they said yes. And so she brought her little heart box over, and I dumped some popcorn, and we put the lid on so she could have a snack later. And it was, I don't know, it was just one of those spontaneous moments that, for whatever reason, made me feel good about the world. I can't explain it other than I could feel like the Grinch, my heart growing. So that was a lovely moment. And many people came by that had been following the quilt roadie video and the stitch roadie video, even though they don't cross stitch, just to hear the jibber jabber. And it was wonderful to meet them, and for them to take the time to say that they watched and that they enjoyed those videos, because I mainly do them for myself. I know, just to process. There's something about being able to process what you're doing when you say it out loud and into the world. And it's heartwarming to know that some of your processing is helping someone else. One woman stopped me and said, I saved her life in doing EPP. And I just laughed, and I said, and how's that? And she had watched years ago, like 2014 or something, where I said, EPP is normally done with matching thread to the fabric. And I just thought to myself, oh, that is way too much work. And that's the thing about me and this channel. I'm always gonna try to find the easier path. And I discovered that if you did English paper piecing or hand applique with a neutral colored YLI silk thread, and you stitched it and tugged it a little bit, the thread disappeared into the fabric, and you didn't have to keep changing colors or worry about the thread showing. And she said it changed her whole life in EPP. That made my day right there. If there was one tip that I knew flew out from the beehive, it would be, okay, we have made a stitcher's life just a hair easier. So that was so heartwarming, and it was just fun to talk to people who many people said, you don't know me, but I know you. And it's like, I do know you. I know you're out there. And otherwise, it would seem like this is just a one-way street, but I feel it. And I know you're out there, and I love that you're out there. And putting up with even the jibber jabber or the distraction on what's going on down below. One couple came through, and you will see a picture of him because I laughed so hard when I looked on my phone. They bought a van inspired by our van, and are traveling inspired by our traveling, as we were inspired by other people's traveling. And he was so lovely because you could tell he totally supported the whole community, and made the comment of how nice, no matter whether you go to a quilt show or quilt shop, people are nice. There's fabric and creativity create kindness in some way. And so several people wanted pictures. And so I had pictures taken that I could put on the slideshow at the end. And so I had him, can you take a picture of me and your wife, you know, because she also wanted a picture on her phone. So I handed my phone to him. He took a selfie at first. He goes, oh. And then he figured it out and then took a picture of me. So I had a selfie of him, which I am including in this video because it just made me laugh when I saw it. It just made me laugh. And today, don't we need a little bit of laughter? Yeah, I sure do. I need some laughter. And I was given the gift that day. One of the unusual out-of-the-box meetups was a sister that taught my youngest son. She was, I believe, the vice principal at his school, and she came to visit. And it was like I couldn't wait to show her pictures of my, young son. Of course, we all think we have children that are special, and both of my boys have gifts that I do not possess. But it was so fun to have someone from his past come. So I had to show her his family pictures, that he has two boys now also, and she just lives across the river. Who knew? So we are definitely going to get together for coffee, and I was most excited to tell him that story and show him a picture of her and I together. That was a blast from the past, certainly a blast from the past. Anyway, $2,046 raised for Leach's Botanical Garden. I am blown away. I am blown away, and I'm so excited about it. I cannot wait to send that to them and tell them the generosity of quilters and stitchers, and for them to know that people have their back. We want that garden to stay open. We want that garden to stay open. Truly a fun day, and I'm not quite sure why, but both Sarah and I were wiped out, and our intention the day after was to do absolutely nothing but stitching. And G and I went for our walk in the gardens, and yeah, it was just lovely. It was a lovely day that was a gift. It really was a gift. So, what happened in the beehive? It really doesn't look any different. It still has a lot of stuff. Handmade items by people, memories, photos, fabric stacks, books, magazine patterns. All of that is still here, but somehow it has breathing room. And what I realized was that when you have breathing room, the cell in your brain that does the creativity takes a big sigh of relief. And I hit the door running. I mean, I could not stop thinking of things that I wanted to do. I now have a a drawer of plastic, those clear plastic drawers, that is just, what it has in it is the next quilt, everything for the next quilt to be made. And so I know that it's sitting there. And I got 2 quilts back. You see this one here, that was the heart quilt that was being quilted by my friend Sandy over in the Bend area. And then I got the owl quilt that you saw before. That was finished, and she quilted that for me. So now we have a problem, Houston. I have 8 quilts that need binding, and I am going to start setting aside binding time, because that's what's good for me, is that when I set aside a specific time for some task, it tends to move a little bit. It moves forward. And I was lucky. This last 2 weeks were a gift to me, literally a gift, because I had 2 girlfriends that came to visit from other parts of the state, and they stayed overnight, and that was when all the stuff was piled everywhere, and I couldn't deal with it. To me, it was just, okay, this box, I don't care what it goes for, it's just going to go. No, they priced everything. When I brought the stuff and Sarah looked, she was like, oh, wow, this is great. Everything's priced. Yeah, it was absolutely wonderful. And so Irene had brought my 2 quilts that were at the quilters in Bend. So now I have binding. And I was trying to figure out how to take this class. I don't know quite what it's about. I'll have to watch the video. But the class was on French binding by machine. And I thought, well, maybe that's what I need to do to get this binding done. But I like hand binding and not seeing the thread. But Pocket Robin, she found a video. She says there's a YouTube video on this. And so I'm going to take a look at that and see whether it's for me or not. But I definitely am going to set aside binding time. What else? What else? In the cleaning out of little piles here and there, I found things that I was like, oh, I really want to do this. I really want to make this. I totally forgot about this. And one of the things that has been literally, I'm not kidding you, okay, mea culpa, mea culpa. Bless me, Father, my last confession was maybe 20 years ago. Yeah, who knows? I literally, for a year, had a small pile on my ironing board because I thought if it stayed on there, and every time I use the ironing board, I had to move it off, but then I move it back. I thought by staying there, it would be yelling at me and saying, do me, me next. And it never happened until yesterday. Yeah. And that is the real gift of ADHD, is that when you do the deep dive, there is no stopping you. Now, you don't follow the rules. Yeah, you don't follow the rules. That's true, but it gets done. So let me tell you the story about this. Angie, who is the proprietress of Lunchbox Quilts, which includes many embroidered, machine embroidered quilt designs. I attended a cross-stitch workshop with her a year ago, summer. at the Attic in Mesa, Arizona, which is an absolute fabulous cross stitch shop. So I was one of several hundred people that was attending the workshop, and Angie had made for her girlfriend a project bag that was bee themed. And I immediately said, "Where is mine? I am the beehive. Where is mine?" And so when I got home, she sent me all the components, the machine embroidery components to make my own. It literally sat on the ironing board since that last year. It was actually a year ago, almost exactly, because summer school just got over, and it was that event that Sarah and I went to. So I decided I am going to make that project bag. I am not a project bag maker. Just let me clarify that. But I said, "Oh, I'm going to just make this. Yeah, I'm going to make this, and I'm going to, and I'll make myself a needle book out of the little scrap that she sent." And then I found this stuff. When I was cleaning out the closet, I saw this stuff. It is a heat bond foam. It's a heat bond foam. And it looks like this because I actually sewed it into my project bag. I had to rip it off of there, yeah. And it looks like this. It's a little bit thick, you know. And so I said, I'm going to use it. I did not read instructions. I just did the deep dive. And when I put it on the front side of the project bag, I thought, I am not going to use this on the back side because it's going to be like as thick as a suitcase. So I just did SF 101 on the back piece. And I just want to, I hope you got something to drink, because this is like, yeah, I'm like that little cartoon with the guy that's walking in a circle with the dust behind him. So here is my project bag. Now, she sent me this piece embroidered on this piece, and then this was a separate embroidery, and then this is a separate embroidery. So I decided I wanted to put this on top of the beehive, and then a zipper. And then I found fabric in my stash for the back, and on the back, because this is thick, the back just has SF 101 fused on it. So I started sewing it together. First I put the zipper in. I was like all about it. And then I realized, how was I going to, I got to cut threads here. How was I going to line it? So I realized that I should have layered it before I put it, anyway, I should have layered it before. And I said, how does it get layered? So then I went and looked at one of the bags that my friend Chris Yo made for me. And I said, oh, okay, so this has to have a layer up here and a layer down here. So I could not explain to you how in the world this whole bag came together, but it did. And I love it. So the next step, here, it laid on my ironing board for a year. So the next step is to take this piece that is machine embroidered, and that is what Angie does, and some of this fabric, and make myself a needle book that goes with this bag. Yeah. And then any bee cross stitch will go in this bag, even though I sewed the instructions to it. And yeah, that all happened yesterday afternoon. when I got a spark of genius. Yeah. So here's Angie's card, and I will, is it gonna focus? There it goes. I will also link her in the drop-down box. Yeah. In the process of organizing, I love that. Organization has never been part of my resume. I mean, sometimes I have to be reminded by one of you that the calendar that's usually behind me over on that side is a month behind. So I found, when I was cleaning, I found this book by my chair. Apparently, my intention was to journal one thought a day. So I wrote down, a tree grows in two directions at the same time. Gavitropic means the tree grows away from the light to the roots. Phototropic grows towards the light. The work that you do in the dark matters and supports the work in the light. Yes. Well, I made 3 notations in July of 2024, one in August of 2024, and that was it. So now I made my first notation yesterday, and I'm going to make just a 1-line notation every day. And yesterday I wrote, life can be hard, say yes. Exactly. Say yes. When I went to Quilters Affair, and I went in 2 roles. I went as a student, and that is a week-long event of quilt instructors from around the world teaching in Sisters, Oregon for 1 week, culminating in the largest outdoor quilt show, the Sisters Out, which is always the 2nd week in July, so you can plan ahead. The week before that 2nd weekend in July is the Quilters Affair. I rode down with my friend Beth, and you will see a picture of her in the slideshow because she bought a lot of my wool scraps. And she's so happy she now has a wool stash. So we took Sue Spargo's class together. So, we both are woolies. She made this stitching book for me in commemoration. People are just, so amazing to me. But so here's the stitching book that she, look at the cover. I mean, it's like crocheted, and it says Sisters 2026, and it had wool pages in here and an envelope to hold little scissors or something. It had a pin cushion attached to the lid, and it came with Sue's needle labels. So this week I took the needle labels because I signed up for Sue's class at Asilomar in Pacific Grove, which is going to be absolutely fantastic because that's our growing up neck of the woods. And when I met G, he actually was living right next to the conference center of Silomar. And so it has a lot of personal meaning. I sailed the Monterey Bay with my parents. I slept when we were poor, and we're trying to supplement a food budget. My parents would go surf fishing on the Monterey Bay, and I would sleep in the sand dunes at night while they fished. And so if there's anything that puts me to sleep, it's the sound of waves. It's the sound of waves. So I have many fond memories, and I am so excited for G and I to take this trip because he will be able to get his camera out in his old stomping grounds, and we'll be able to visit my parents' final resting place and visit the bay. It's going to be an amazing trip for us. Because I signed up for Sue's class, I said this needle book has to be ready for that class. And so I went ahead and I started putting the labels so that I could put the needles, the appropriate needles, with the appropriate labels. And so this will be going to that class, you know, and I showed you before that class is a kit I already own. I mean, it's pretty amazing that I'm finally going to get to work on it, which is based on the ocean. So I'm very excited about that. Okay, let me see. What else do I have? I have some notes here just because I can't. Okay, I'm going to go through some of the comments in the last video and know that the winner of the Bonnie and Camille quilt book will be on a flyer at the end. And please email me in the email address in the drop-down box your mailing address, and I will get it off to you. I don't know where you live, but I hope you enjoy it. Anyway, this was not in the comments, but it was in an Instagram feed. So just a heads up, years ago, I started the Facebook group Friends of Sue Spargo. And it has become a place where all of us that are Sue Spargo fans can be encouraged by other stitchers and learn from other stitchers. And my friend Sandy is #1 moderator of that group. But one of the regulars on that site, whose name is Janet Arthur, said something that, you know, sometimes when you hear another person use a term or say something, it just immediately, you hear the cog wheels click, click, click. Ah, yes. She was talking about the toned down circles that she was working on, that they are her potato chip stitching. I know I must have heard that term before, but for some reason, maybe it's all that's going on here and everything I'm wanting to learn and do and continue to stimulate my brain. The whole idea of, yeah, there's no way you're eating one potato chip. I mean, there might be a weirdo out there that can eat one, but nobody I know. Nobody I know. So I loved that thought of potato chip stitching. Yeah. And Melody asked, why do I call my husband G? And many of you have heard the story all over before, but I'm just going to tell Melody so she doesn't have to go to the old videos. But I should tell her, you need to start from the beginning. G is called G because the first letter of his name starts with a G. And when our oldest grandson was little, he couldn't say grandpa. And we didn't want him calling his grandpa by his first name, so I said, just call him G. And so all the grandkids call him G, and I call him G. So that's why. That's why. And we were so lucky this last week because that oldest grandson got to stay one night with us. It was a serendipitous moment. Okay. Barbara asked if Barbara Bell, I think Bell, do I save and use my scraps? Yes, I do. I gave a whole giant garbage bag of scraps to my friend Sarah because we are also passionate about EPP, and it doesn't take but a little bit of fabric for that. And so I tend to save all my, I have a nice padded fabric bag that stands up, and I just drop scraps in there. If they're bigger scraps, like I think that's binding amount, then I save it in my piles. But anything smaller, I just save in that bag. Vicki Chappell asked where I find embroidery patterns. All over the place. Every quilt shop has some embroidery patterns, but some of our favorite embroiderers from the past are no longer doing it, like Crabapple Hill. She retired. Everybody gets to retire. Luckily, Kathy Schmidt is still, you can still find her on the internet and her website. She does a lot of embroidery. And then just on Pinterest or images, and one of my favorite embroidery items that I gave to my older daughter-in-law was an owl that I printed off of an image on the internet, and I embroidered it, and it was absolutely adorable. So yeah, I find them all over the place, literally. If there's an image on Pinterest that is like a line drawing and I think, wow, that'd be a lovely embroidery, I'll print it. I'm not printing it to sell, so to me it's like, yeah, I can do that. Geraldine asked, does SF 101 make it more difficult to stitch? Absolutely not. No. SF 101 is loosely woven. It's not tightly woven. And the glue doesn't obstruct the needle at all. And in fact, I love, I'll show you here in my Yazzie bag, which is my embroidery bag, that I am working on. Let me see here. I showed you this last time, I believe. I'm working on this canning jars. This was a Crabapple Hill pattern. And I'm kind of a lazy stitcher, just so you know. We can do a 12-step program for lazy stitchers, but I like to carry my thread. And the SF 101 lessens the chance. It totally takes the chance away of seeing those carried threads from one place to the other. The other thing I want to share with you is that I discovered something in this particular project. So when I was stitching this became my morning project. I realized that I had stitched this jar with 2 threads and this jar with 1 thread. And when I was sitting there, I was going, why does this look lighter than this one? And I looked on the back and I was going, oh no, I stitched it wrong. No, I sat there and I looked at it and I said, how clever am I? How clever am I? Because truly, it's not one-dimensional. It's 2-dimensional. And the way it's sitting on the table. And so I decided, wow, you are a genius. Cheryl, I want you to say, "You're a genius, Anna." Yeah. So I've decided that I'm going to go back and forth because really that's the way the light hits things. So, like when I get to this jar, which has all the round, what is it? Looks like eggs or something in there, onions, I'm not sure. I'm going to make the jar 2 threads and everything inside the jar 1 thread. I know. I was just like, holy moly, you are amazing. Amazing. Yeah. And that is truly the blessing of cleaning and organizing an entire room, is that I found projects that I still absolutely love, but had been languishing in obscurity under piles of things. Yes. Okay, let's see. Let me look at my notes just to make sure that I covered everything. I think I did. If I didn't, we'll address it next time. Again, it was a fabulous sale. And Leach's Botanical Garden is going to appreciate all of the creators out there who helped them. And I appreciate all of you that stop by and listen and laugh and ponder with me. So you all take care. You know I love you guys.